What if the creature that was supposed to hunt you became the one that saved you? What if the most dangerous mother in the forest was the only reason you survived? This is not a fairy tale. This happened, and the ending will leave you breathless. The northern Rocky Mountains of Idaho stretch across the land like the spine of something ancient and unbothered. In late October, when the first hard frost glazes the pine needles and the elk move lower into the valleys, this wilderness becomes something else entirely. The light turns silver, the rivers slow, and the forest, dense with Douglas fir and Engelmann spruce, goes quiet in a way that feels less like peace and more like a held breath. This is wolf country, has been for 10,000 years, and the rules here are old and absolute. Her name, given by the wildlife monitoring team stationed 40 miles east near the Salmon River, was Frost, a gray wolf, 6 years old, alpha female of a pack that had held this territory for 3 seasons. Frost was not large by wolf standards, but she carried herself with the particular authority of an animal that had never once questioned her place in the world. Silver-gray coat, one amber eye, one eye pale as winter ice from an old injury, a scar running through her left brow that the field team had used to identify her since she was 2. She had raised 2 litters. She knew what her cubs smelled like, sounded like, felt like pressed against her belly in the dark of the den. She had lost her most recent litter 4 weeks earlier, a disease that moved through the pack quietly and cruelly, taking the pups before they were old enough to fight anything. Frost had stayed in the den for 6 days after the last one died. The field team's remote sensors showed her barely moving. On a Friday morning in late October, a truck driver on Route 93 north of Chalice pulled over at a rest stop and left a cardboard box at the edge of the tree line. He drove away in under 90 seconds. Inside that box, wrapped in a gas station flannel shirt, were 2 golden retriever puppies, approximately 5 weeks old. One was already gone by morning. The other was alive, but barely, a small golden male, eyes still cloudy with early youth, shaking without stopping. By Saturday, Frost found him. The research team's camera, mounted on a spruce trunk 60 meters from the rest stop clearing, caught everything. Frost approached the box downwind first, circling at 20 meters, then 10, then 5. She stopped. Every muscle in her body was a question. Her nose worked the air for 2 full minutes. Then she stepped forward and looked inside. The puppy made a sound, not a bark, a whimper so thin and ragged it barely qualified as noise. Frost pulled back. Then she stepped forward again. She sniffed him for a long time. The field team lead, Dr. James Calloway, a wildlife biologist from the University of Montana with 22 years studying wolf behavior in this exact region, would later say that what happened next was the single most extraordinary thing he had witnessed in his entire career. Frost picked the puppy up in her jaws as gently as she had ever carried her own cubs and walked back into the forest. The research team lost her signal for 11 hours. When the GPS collar pinged again, she was at the secondary den site, 6 kilometers deep in the forest, a location the pack used only in emergencies. And the puppy was alive, warm, nursing heat from Frost's body through a night that dropped to 14 degrees. They named the puppy Birch. What followed over the next several months dismantled everything the team thought they understood about behavioral boundaries between species. Frost treated Birch with the same exacting, tender ferocity she had shown her wolf cubs. She groomed him. She disciplined him with a look or a low sound when he wandered too far from the den. She brought him food before herself. When other pack members approached Birch with uncertainty, wolves are deeply hierarchical and deeply suspicious. It was Frost who stepped between them and held the line, not aggressively, just firmly, the way a mother does when the conversation is already over. Birch grew fast the way golden retrievers do, his fluffy coat thickening through the winter, his legs growing long and clumsy, his personality, joyful, ridiculous, and completely unbothered by danger, both delighting and exhausting Frost in ways the cameras captured beautifully. He could not howl properly. He tried. Every morning the pack would raise their voices to the pale winter sky, and Birch would tip his golden head back and produce something between a bark and a moan that echoed off the tree line. The pack paused every single time. Frost never did. She simply pressed on as if everything was normal, because for her, it was. Spring came. Birch was 7 months, 44 pounds, and fully embedded in the pack's daily rhythms. He ran with them, not hunting, but alongside, his golden coat absurdly visible against the dark forest floor, a living torch that should, by every logic, have made him a liability. But the pack had accepted him, not as a wolf, as Frost's. Then, in June, the crisis arrived without warning. A cattle rancher 18 kilometers west had been losing livestock for 3 months and had obtained a predator control permit. He hired 2 men, experienced trackers, who had been following Frost's pack with professional patience for 6 weeks. On a Tuesday evening, they cornered 3 pack members, including Frost, in a narrow box canyon above the river. What they did not expect, could not have planned, was what came out of the tree line behind them. Birch had never shown aggression in 7 months of documented observation, not once. He was golden and goofy and gentle, the same as 10,000 golden retrievers sitting on couches across America on that same Tuesday evening. But these were his people. He came out of the forest at a full run, barking with a volume that rolled off the canyon walls like thunder, his body aimed straight at the 2 men with absolute fearless intention. The horses the trackers had tied at the canyon entrance spooked immediately, pulling their lines. One of the trackers fell. In the chaos and noise, Frost and the 2 pack members broke through the gap and were gone into the forest within seconds. The men were unharmed. The wolves were unharmed. Birch stood in the middle of that canyon, chest heaving, golden fur wild, watching the men regroup with the same steady amber gaze he had learned from his mother. 3 months later, Birch was recovered during a wildlife welfare check organized by Dr. Calloway's team after receiving a tip from a local ranger. He was placed, eventually, with a family in Boise, the Hargrove family, who had specifically requested a dog with, as they put it, an unusual history. He sleeps at the foot of their youngest daughter's bed now. He is healthy, enormous, and deeply loved. But every morning, without fail, he goes to the back fence of the yard, tips his golden head toward the mountains, and makes that sound, that broken, beautiful, half-wolf sound that carries up through the valley. And somewhere in the Douglas fir and the cold silver air, if you believe in such things, something hears it. Justice does not always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like a golden dog standing in a canyon barking for the mother who never let him freeze. If this story found something in you, give it a like and subscribe to this channel, because these stories are real, they are happening right now, and we will never stop finding them for you.